This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Symbiopsychotaxiplasm from 1968, directed by William Greaves. For some reason, RJ, no tagline for this film.
Why?
I don't know.
Make one.
I got a synopsis.
Make a tagline on the spot.
It's what it's about, man.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. In Manhattan's Central Park, a film crew directed by William Greaves is shooting a screen test with various pairs of actors. It's a confrontation between a couple. He demands to know what's wrong. She challenges his sexual orientation. Cameras shoot the exchange, and another camera records Greaves and his crew. Sometimes we watch the crew discussing the scene, its language, and the process of making a movie. Is there such a thing as natural language? Are all things related to sex? The camera records distractions. A woman rides horseback past them. A garrulous homeless vet who sleeps in the park chats with them up. What's the nature of making a movie?
Gee, I don't know.
Cinema.
That's all I got.
So, RJ, are you familiar with this film? Have you seen it before this week?
It's who hasn't seen Symbiopsychotaxiplasm? It's like one of those movies that is a staple in Canadian households.
Well, I mean, funny that you mentioned that. Is the director, William Greaves, he cut his teeth working on documentary film for the National Film Board of Canada.
Which one?
The one.
The
one.
Holy cow!
For the whole NFB, he did them all. No.
Holy cow!
That's where he learned everything he knew, which actually makes sense. The NFB was very much in documentary, and cinema verte was a thing, and sort of experimental things, and looking at life and approaching it that way. Mm-hmm. So coming to this, I was like, okay, interesting. This is you know what it is as soon as you start watching it.
Okay.
You know,
had you not seen this film?
Never.
Before?
I've never seen it before.
I'm surprised.
The title is intimidating.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, I thought this would have been like Fedora era Jarrett.
No.
Smoking ciggies, watching Symbiopsychotaxiplasm.
No.
Just all kind of falls into place. You would think.
One would make that mistake.
Yeah, and I did. But that's okay.
No,
okay.
You fucked up. But this is Symbiopsychotaxiplasm take one.
How many takes are there?
There's 2.5.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
If you can imagine, that's how this film actually ends, because there isn't really a movie here. It is a series of events,
like a series of unfortunate events.
Not quite. There's talk about tits.
Yeah, there is.
Yep.
What else do they talk about?
There's a certain word that gets dropped with a bloom frequency. I believe, RJ, you might be referencing in your letterbox review is a hard F.
Now, is that used as a noun or a verb?
All.
Just yes.
All.
Yeah, there's a few, particularly by the lead actor. He has some strong.
Doesn't language. But if he's what do you mean the lead actor?
The lead screen test actor. The person like in the scene over and over.
But isn't there multiple people?
There are, but the one who uses it the most is the one after the intro.
Right.
Like the guy who's
got a bit of a stutter.
Chunk of this. Yeah, and he's in a good chunk of this. The bridge guy.
Right. Well, because I think it's not just him who is doing the role, I guess, who is playing the character. So the screen test of this like film, which I guess originally was going to be called Over the Cliff, is this husband and wife. They're in the park. The wife is mad, and the husband's like trying to like confront her about it. And she's like, well, I saw you with him. He's like, what do you mean you saw me with him? I saw the way you looked at that man at a church, I guess. Is that? I think...
It's kind of implied like
yes.
that. Yeah.
And then he's like, wow, you're crazy. And then, yes, it's just the accusations of you're a gay man. I'm married to a gay man. Like, and this is the scene as it plays out. But it's not until you watch the second part that you see kind of like the back end of the scene. It seems like a lot of the emphasis is on
one scene.
The one part of the scene. Where things turn violent. RJ.
Well, there's some shouting.
Yeah.
In take 2.5.
There is.
There's a lot of shouting. I don't know if that was scripted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I don't know either. So this is kind of like the story of the film that's being worked on, which is barely a film at all. But the film itself that we're talking about is William Greaves has this idea, the director. He wants to break down these barriers and redressing his frustrations, which are things that I guess when you're a filmmaker who watches a lot of films, thinks a lot about films, when you watch a lot of stuff, you kind of like go, why does it have to be like this? And I mean, we have old Jean-Luc Godard, who just died this week as we record. Sure. He was doing the exact same thing about 10 years earlier. The whole French New Wave kind of emerged out of this idea of like looking at these movies, this visual culture that's in abundance and everyone's watching because TVs are just starting to creep into people's living rooms, but most people are still going to theaters. And I guess when you're kind of going through your academic education and being introduced to new ways of looking and thinking, some of this stuff can be really rote and predictable, and you're like, I want to do something interesting, I want to do something cool. And that's why you have this like plethora of films that are like this. I feel like this is like a genre in itself about challenging what cinematic narrative can be. And I mean, your kind of beatnik writers, your modernists, 30 years earlier in literature are doing this, challenging what can be on the page, how to write about things. But movies are a lot more abrupt. I guess it's like it feels like years ago now when we talked about Naked Lunch. I don't know if you've read too much William S. Burroughs and the cut-up method. This is all part and parcel of that, of trying to deconstruct traditional narratives and the way things are constituted. And this is just an example of that approach that Greaves has, where he's kind of like said, well, how about the thing that we're making, there's going to be a person shooting that, but it's a test screen, and there's a makeup girl, we learn later on, but it just looks like it's just people outside. And the crew is just a bunch of amateurs who, like, some of them barely even know how to, like, load cameras or be like, hey, I'm going to run out of film. So where's the other one? And the whole process of, like, labeling your canisters to know which can of film comes from what camera. So when you go to edit, it's not just this, like, waste of time of looking at film over and over again. And this is what Greaves wants. He wants something real. He wants an experience of, like, this is what movies should be like. Maybe, I don't know if he actually is arguing that, if that's what he thinks movies should be, but I feel like he's trying to look for something that seems a little bit more authentic. And I think, I don't know. Again, this stuff's not for everybody, but sure. I will say, let me preface this, that I enjoyed this more than I was expecting to. It was, I don't know. It was for somehow, and this is like what, 75 minutes long or so, and
sure.
It went by pretty quick.
Okay.
Which I was startled by. I was like, like that first half hour just breezed by. I've watched movies recently that it felt like an eternity, and it just kept moving because there's always like changes. Like you're never really stuck with any one thing for too long, and then just moves on to the next scene. And this is one of the more screenshotable films we've watched recently. One of the highlights recently was Jigoku. Was pretty good. This one's right up there. Mostly though because everybody is somewhat crass and very.
There's some strong language
and very blunt. So you get some nice images where you're like, oh, look at those words they're using. I'm emblazoned with my closed captioning on the Criterion channel. Perfect. So we have a lot of scenes of Greaves explaining what the cameramen are going to be doing, where they're going to be, because he wants one cameraman filming the action, he wants another cameraman filming the filming of the project, and then he wants a third person over, like, kind of filming the entire apparatus. Which, like, a lot of the time, does any of that matter? Like, I feel like the one's already kind of doing the job, and then beyond that, you're just like, well, yeah, I mean, it becomes redundant, but it's always good to have coverage, I've heard.
Sure, full coverage is important.
Full coverage. Ask anybody. So, I guess, like, probably one of the scenes that sticks out at me still, other than the early on when Greaves, like, before they're asked for their permit from one of the horse cops that come running by to check out what these weirdos are doing in Central Park, and if they have permission to, which they did. William Greaves is kind of saying, I want you to, like, shoot stuff off to the side. Like, even if you're filming this thing, if something catches your attention, just, like, film that instead. It's like, look at that. Here's the woman with the tits. Here she comes. And it's like, whoa.
He said, I didn't know William Greaves was Italian.
And then, of course, Lee's like, nah. I mean, I was just joking. I was just joking around.
Yeah. That is what he says.
Like,
were these barriers you talked about, were any of them sexual by chance? These barriers that he sought to break down.
Those were the thematics of the entire film. Everything's sexual, RJ. Which I don't get from this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of just,
the dialogue is related to relationships.
Sure. But everything else,
sexual in nature?
Everything else, you're just like, that seems suspect of a claim.
Other than the call out of the tits, I think. Yeah. That one is explicit.
It's like, maybe he was really horny at that time, because those two things come, like, right back to back.
I mean, yeah, he saw something and he went for it.
I think there's one bit where during one of these rehearsals, the camera's, like, shooting him, and he just looks at the camera. He's like, quit, look, go over there, point elsewhere. It's like, but they told you you told them what to do. You told them to shoot something they're interested in, which is good. I mean, I like that. And of course, like, probably the one sequence, because it takes up a large chunk of the runtime of this, that probably is interesting. But that I found it interesting anyway, is when the crew are talking about the film, and they're filming themselves talking about the film, and they're talking about the existence of this footage and the conversation, which the director doesn't know exists until the day that he gets the footage, when he goes to put it all together, and whether or not the fact that it exists will change the entire form of the documentary itself, and which is really interesting. I guess, to me, but because there's like the one woman in there, she kind of, like, jumps in there. She's like, well, no, this isn't wrong. This is, like, violating his vision of it. But but I mean, I completely disagree with her, because I mean, and I think, like, most of the guys that were there kind of like, well, no, it's like, this is what he asked us to do, is that it would be inauthentic to not talk about this, because it's on our minds, and we are talking about it now, because. Yeah, like, there's some. It's a weird production, and people are sure. Weird. But man, that's kind of like the main linchpin of. I guess you'd call it the conflict. And in part 2, or sorry, take 2.5, at the Q&A, which the captions identify Bill Greaves as Bill Gates.
Terrific.
At one point, it just says Bill Gates and Steve Buscemi. And I was like, whoa, Bill Gates is there? And I went, no, that's just Bill Greaves. He's just older.
Did you get a screenshot of that?
I did.
Good. Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific.
I'm not sure what use it is, but...
I don't know. It's just, just a piece of history, Jarrett.
Piece
Just
of
like all
history.
these Criterion films, right?
It's all history.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm trying to think of that was like the main thing was that sequence. It doesn't leave much of an impression. It's nothing. It's not a movie you can recommend though. People are going to ask me perhaps, "Oh, what movie are you talking about this week?" And they'll say Symbiopsychotaxiplasm, and they'll go, "Whoa, what's that about? Is that the new Cronenberg film?"
It's funny you mentioned that. I have a buddy I work with, and last week he was like, "What's the movie next week?" And it was like Symbiopsychotaxiplasm, and he just went, "Fuck off." And there was no follow up, just fuck off. And I appreciated it. I was like, yeah. I was like, because I hadn't watched it at that point yet, and I was like, I feel how you feel. Yeah, it's good stuff. What were you talking about?
Well, I'm trying to think about stuff to talk about. There's a lot of split screen.
Sure.
Where we have 3 feeds, often it's 2 feeds of what's going on simultaneously of events, and then it kind of like zooms in on it. I will say, the way that these films were edited, it's a real contrast of aesthetics though. But I so much prefer the 1968 Take One film to the 2004 thing. Because
I have something to say about all of that too.
And man, it really becomes clear when, I mean, there's like some production elements of Take One that do date the film, but man, the 2004 stuff, like the weird cross-cutting of like the title, the Symbiopsychotaxiplasm coming together, it just felt like this cheap video editing. It just felt rinky-dink, and then it just felt off. It felt. Kind of like, I mean, this kind of like revisiting something decades later. More often than not, it doesn't work very well. It doesn't really, you can't really add to what the first thing was very satisfactorily. And I mean, damn it, Steve Buscemi, who I guess like him and Steven Soderbergh were big fans when they saw this, I guess, in like 1992 at a revival of it in like 92 Sundance Film Festival, and they were like, yeah, we gotta get the word out on this movie. This is incredible. And I don't know, it's like, sure, and it's so much though that they were able to secure financing for the sequel, which is interesting. Like, how much money do you really need?
I mean, is it enough to pay for the cameras?
I mean, I guess for a person to take time off of whatever work they're doing, which is a lot of, because the one thing, so William Greaves, he's a documentary filmmaker, and this is kind of, I would say, probably one of his more experimental works. He did a lot of like, conventional stuff. He did stuff on, Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells.
On Booker T?
No. Well, yes, but not the Booker T.
Not Booker?
A Booker T.
Oh, okay.
Who made a greater impact? That's for the history books to decide.
Yeah, I know where my vote lands, but yeah.
So I mean, he kind of came about as a voice in like the civil rights movement, and this is I guess probably his most noteworthy film. As it's in the Criterion Collection. It's got the crazy name, and I don't know what more to say about that other than I enjoyed it for what it was, and I don't know, but again, it would be a tough thing to recommend to people. It's not for everyone, but if you got that Criterion channel and you're kind of like, well, shit, I guess I want to watch something. maybe it'll
Rob
be
Zombie's
this.
Monsters doesn't come out for a month.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
What else are you gonna watch?
You got time to kill.
Yeah. What else are you gonna do?
Only a month, huh?
Well, I think before. Who's to say?
Oh, you want to hear what Steven Soderbergh, a longtime proponent of the film, reflected on this film? The director of Schizopolis.
Yes.
As you can imagine, I just thought it was one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how great it was and that it wasn't famous. I mean, really famous. Even then, almost 10 years ago, I felt maybe it's still, and even now, too far ahead of its time. It's the ultimate quote-unquote reality piece. The difference being in this case that nobody was in on the joke, and that's what makes it so brilliant. When you do a reality show on TV today, you know you're part of a show and that they're going to start creating obstacles for you or trying to complicate the situation purposefully and consciously. Here, you're just watching a situation where people are absolutely convinced that Bill is out of control, doesn't know what he's doing, and you're a fly on the wall. And then the ultimate mutiny takes place. It's really incredible. I think when he was presented with that material, he must have felt like the cinema gods were smiling on him.
I mean, I think Soderbergh's not entirely accurate, because the Joe Schmo show was a fake reality show where everyone was in on it except for the one guy, for Joe Schmo. And like that was pure reality, Jarrett, because like he thought he was on a reality show, but the reality show was actually Truman Show reality show, and like that's pretty pure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all I got to say about Soderbergh. I have other opinions on him, but none for airing.
Oh, I see.
Well, do you like what he said? Do you agree with Steve?
I think there's some interesting ideas of its play. I mean, from a historical standpoint of how this was made. But I think that this was going on. Like, this is 1968. There was a lot of movies happening. I think about. I mean, so when did F for Fake come along?
F for Fake?
It's like 73. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's always right. 1973. What a recall that was. So, but I mean, so that's 5 years later. I mean, and it's sort of in the wheelhouse of this, but I mean, it's Orson Welles and he can't help himself. And I mean, it is about like showing off. This is the opposite, I guess, of showing off. This is very grounded and stripped down, and it's exactly what it is. And I don't know, it's worthwhile. This is perfect film school viewing, I guess. And you're either going to Soderbergh right into it, and this is absolutely a Steven Soderbergh pick, 100%. But I think if you're a brackage man or a brackage person of any sort, probably you might not like this very much. You might not be that into this.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
So did this come out in 68?
Apparently.
You know what else came out in 68?
Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
2001 Space Odyssey, Once Upon a Time in the West,
Yep.
Rosemary's Baby, Barbarella, Where Eagles Dare, Planet of the Apes, Night of the Living Dead, and Bullet. Those are the top 10 films of 68. Symbiopsychotaxiplasm is not in the top 10, unfortunately. But I just thought I'd give you a little look into what else was going on at the time. So,
RJ, what did you think of Symbiopsychotaxiplasm?
Here, what do you think I thought about Symbiopsychotaxiplasm?
I will say you think that... I don't know, actually. You might you might have a... It was an alright show type of take.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Okay.
I'll
hit you.
We'll find out. We'll all find out together, folks.
So here's something.
Okay.
I find this thing equally, and I take this as such. I find it equally art house trash.
Sure.
Which that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yep.
I should say there are movies that try to do art house trash and are bad. But there's movies that are genuine art house trash that are good. You know what I mean, Jarrett?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
I mean, on your art house trash tag, we've got Under the Silver Lake.
Oh yeah, that's art house trash.
Halloween 2.
Oh, big time.
Double Life of Veronique.
Yep.
And we've got Kuso.
Is that all that's in there?
The Taint.
Yes.
And the works of Stan Brakhage.
Yes, yeah. Is that it though? I thought I had way more.
No, there's a couple. There's like a couple dozen. I just grabbed some highlights.
Yeah. Halloween 2 is the definition of art house trash, I think. the bad kind, in my opinion.
You know, I saw a clip of the end of that movie recently, and I was like, it's actually not that bad. I think that Robert Zombie's onto something.
You know,
love hurts, RJ. Love hurts.
I'm totally with you on how Rob Zombie's Halloween, and I think the first 20 minutes of Halloween 2 are pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Like
the hospital stuff in Zombies Halloween 2. Do you think he's going to bring any of that flair to the Munsters?
Only time will tell.
A couple weeks, 3-4 weeks. That's all we got to wait now. So anyways, this is the art house trash camp, which it's like, for me, I don't know, it goes either way. There's some stuff I like, there's some stuff I don't. I think the first 5-10 minutes of this movie, I was like, what are we doing here? Not in a bad way. I was like, what is this thing about? And then you start to figure it out, and you're like, oh, I see. This is an experiment, Jarrett.
Well, when William Greaves tells you what the film's about.
Yes, when he kind of like talks about it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of I looked at this as almost like a social psychology experiment, because that's what it seems like to me, where he's seeing people's basically their limits on what they are willing to do. It's kind of like, have you ever heard of that experiment that's real like bread and butter social psych experiment, where it's here's a waiting room, someone will be with you soon, and they let a couple people in, and then no one ever comes, and they just wait to see how long these people will wait for. And it's just will they leave after a half an hour? And some dudes do. Some people wait 2 hours, and then they're like, is anyone coming? And then they leave. And then there's always one guy who's there for 6 hours, and is is this happening? And they don't know. And you just kind of wait to see how long people will actually, go along with it. That's what I felt when I was watching this. I was like, this seems like a psychology experiment more than it is a movie. And I'm down with that.
Are you here for it?
I'm not here for it. But I'm down with that kind of stuff. So symbiopsychotaxiplasm, there's some stuff that I find kind of frustrating about it, where I'm like, ugh, and kind of, I wouldn't say sloppy, but I was kind of like, I was like, I'm not super into this. But I think as an idea, Jarrett, do you know about ideas? As an idea, I was like, I see why this is something that people like, and kind of maybe not cherish, other than maybe Steve Buscemi. But it's I can see why people are into this. And I think film people are reading it wrong. So Soderbergh and maybe Steve Buscemi, their take on how it is as a film, I don't know if that's right. I see this as a genuine experiment about people, and that's how I kind of take it. And I like that aspect of it, because I think William Greaves set it up in an interesting way. Here's one of the hardest things about this, though, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but William Greaves is he's not a very articulate person, and he's not well spoken. So when people are asking him questions, and again, maybe this was his intent, but he'd be like, I don't know.
People say
just do something.
People say the same thing about us on this very
I know, and that's why I'm not leaning one way or the other. It's just people ask him questions about what to do and stuff, and he's like, I don't know. And then there'll be scenes of people in, hey, do that behind.
It was really.
He doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing.
Well, I think it was also. He was very sweaty.
Well, yeah.
But this is one of the things though about being a director is people come looking for you about a lot of things, and for the very fact that this is a very chaotic, the nature of this is very chaotic. That when you're dealing with this stuff, people ask you stuff and you're just like, fuck, I don't know. What else are we supposed to respond?
I get that.
Yeah.
Yep. I get that totally.
Yeah, I feel like I would say that this is more an example of a man who's trying to hold it together, and this is the result. Is more rather than anything like that.
And see, that's what I mean. Where it's I actually had a hard time trying to figure out what it was. I was like, is this actually what they say it is? And he's just kind of trying his best, or in my mind, I was like, is Bill Greaves a secret genius and this is all an elaborate plan. And even
Well,
his responses
we're all secret
of like,
geniuses.
well, do you know what I mean? Not in the way that these other people are talking about him. Like, I feel like, is there a realm of possibility where it's like even his like ambiguous, vague responses like, I don't know, just do something. It's like, is that even planned? Where it's like that was his intent, or he didn't want to tell people too much, you know?
Right.
And
Well,
and like he
I
says
think...
that at some point where he's like film whatever, like so he says that, but like when
Yeah.
people ask him like actual upfront questions, what do you want me to do?
Well, it
And he's
literally
like,
is an
whatever.
experimental film, and
I
people are
know.
and these are people who are like don't necessarily know, because he doesn't know what he wants, but that's not how people operate either.
Yeah.
People do want to know what to do.
People crave direction.
Yes, and from the director. So
Yes.
yeah, cool. People are like, what are we supposed to be doing here? What is this? And he's like, I don't know. Figure it out. And they're like, what the shit? It's like, this is like contrary to like any of your training you've ever received in any field. And so when you're actually confronted with this idea, because a lot of people complain in their jobs, like, oh man, I wish there was like I had more freedom in my job and then I was able to do what you wanted. And like, think of all the things that could come out of it instead. And you wind up with like, when they do get that opportunity, it's like, what the fuck is this? This is nonsense.
Yeah. No, and I totally feel that too. Like, I get it, and like that's what I mean. I was like, I think I was kind of watching it different, where I was like relating it more to something that I understand better. I was like, I feel like they're doing this, and like not as much a movie thing, but I mean, I don't know. You can interpret anything as anything. Like some people see a tomato and they're like, it's a donkey. Yeah. So like whatever. But when I still haven't really said, but like, I don't know about symbiocyclotaxiplasm, because there's some stuff that like some of it I'm kind of like, I don't like this. Like some of the way things are approached, but there's a lot of it that I'm like, it is interesting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it is a compelling thing to watch, where you're kind of like, I don't like, for a lot of it, I was like, I'm not totally on board with all of this, but I am interested to see how it plays out. And like even in my mind, I was like, I don't think there's going to be any kind of like resolution to anything. I was like, that's not what this is about. But I'm interested to see what these people actually kind of take out of this. And it's like my biggest thing was I was just relating it to that psych experiment, where it was just like, how long are people just going to sit on something before they like feel the urge to act? And I was like, I wonder what that is, because with the actors, it seems like they kind of have a boiling point at a couple times, where some of the actors get really frustrated, and then the film crew kind of has a boiling point where they're recording stuff too, right? Yeah. And then even when they're working, one of my favorite scenes in this is there's that guy who's like maybe not the assistant director, but like some kind of producer or something, Bob Rosen. Mm-hmm. And he's like trying to like make things happen, and he goes up to those people. He's like, I think this is what we got to do. And one of the guys is like, he's like, we don't want you, Bob Rosen. Get out of here. We don't need you, Bob Rosen. I found that really funny for some reason, because he was like the man, Jarrett. He was the man trying to give them structure, and those guys are like, we don't need you. Get out of here. So I don't know. Like it's an interesting movie. Like I think a lot of people will pull different things out of it, because like I'm sure I doubt a lot of people would see it the way I do, but some people probably would. People who have like, I don't know, fish brains like me.
So Jeffrey Anderson from combustiblecelluloid.com, which was actually a site that I was a fan of back in my high school days, described the film as, quote, a puzzle without an answer, and the most fascinating element of all is Greaves himself. On camera, he doesn't really appear to know what he's doing, but perhaps he does, end quote.
See? It's like, I think that's a take on this. It's like,
it's a take.
Like, I don't know if it's a good take or anything like that. Maybe that's just how he was. And it's like you said, maybe he was just like, you know, trying to hold things together. But maybe Bill Gates is actually doing more than he's letting on.
Who knew Bill Gates had so much to offer?
Who knew? Who knew? So it's an interesting
This reminds me.
gambit.
What do you think of all the talk about the dialogue not being believable? And then like the one guy starts saying, "This is how people talk," and you're like, "No, it isn't." It's like,
This is you're cutting my balls here.
that was brilliant.
That was different.
That was a good bit, but no, there's some real like that isn't how people talk whatsoever. It's like, in fact, I mean, the dialogue is pretty much typical, but I'm like, I'm not sure. There's no real definition of what does it mean to talk real, because like what they're doing right then and there is real, but then when it seems like when you start writing, you have to change that. It's the way people. But there's those guys that are good at faking. Realistic sounding dialogue. Yeah. Remember when people used to say that Quentin Tarantino had realistic dialogue?
Oh, I know. I remember. People still do.
I don't know about anymore.
Well, some people. Some people do. Some people. The only dialogue that stood out to me that I was like, that's clunky, was the stuff where he's like, you acting. Quit acting on me. Why you acting on me? And he's like, you're really playing me for a. Or he's like, you're giving me a loop here, kid. You're really giving me on a loop here, kid. It was something weird like that. I was like, like that's a little clunky.
Yeah.
But when it was just like single words where he was like trying to get stuff out and she's like, no. Stuff like that, I was like, yeah, that's kind of how people talk. Like sometimes ladies just don't want to say stuff, you know, Jared. You ever gotten the cold treatment? Cold shoulder?
Who hasn't?
Who hasn't? Yeah, so I don't know, like Symbiote, the Venom 3 movie that we just watched this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it was compelling, and I wanted to see what happened. I took something different out of it. Is it a good movie? I don't know. I'm with you where it's kind of like I'm not gonna recommend. I mean, I don't recommend Criterions to anybody ever, but. Even in the Chud Discord chat, like for people on there, it's like I don't know if I'd even recommend it to those dudes. It's like this is a very like
they don't watch the movies we talk about anyway.
I mean I know exactly, but even those dudes, it's like I don't who have like casual interest in this stuff. Like I don't think you guys would even like this. Like no, I could see people either like creaming over it, Duncan style, or just being like what. Cares kind of thing. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I see some merit in it, but also I'm like, I don't know. But I do think Take 2.5, I think it invalidates a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
Because, and like we'll talk about that, but it's like I find like they are trying so hard to emulate and capture what this is that it completely invalidates it, where it's like there's this scene where the guy's trying to get the camera crew to have that like candid talk again, and he's like, yeah, we're doing this, you know, it's like because it was in the first one, remember and it's like it's encouraged, but like no one's really into it, and that scene only lasts like a minute long because like all these people, it's like they probably know what this thing is now, so I don't think it can work a second time
in POG form.
Not in POG form, at least. Not in POG form. But yeah, I did not like Take 2.5. I thought that was trite and redundant.
Yeah, no, I was not into Take 2.5 either. Yeah, it felt like a bad 2004 documentary that was trying to like recapture something. You're like, I don't know, just watch the original. That's the thing. This like we all know that the first one ends with coming soon, Take 2, which is like kind of a joke almost. I felt. Yeah. I don't know if it. Yeah, I don't know if he meant it.
I didn't take that seriously at all.
Other than I knew, like, oh, it took that many years, and I guess if it happens, it's kind of cool. But like the fact that he didn't really do it, it's like, well, I guess I'll go back and do the footage again. But it doesn't look right. The techniques are off. Like it's a more mature filmmaker now doing it, and it's like this is clunky.
Yeah, I agree, and it's like I think the scene that just summarizes it or like kind of embodies it completely is the camera crew trying to force conversation to happen, and it's not happening, and it's just like, and like they even say it's like, yeah, this is what they did last time, and you're just like, yeah, we know, we watched it, like we just watched it. So yeah, I found Take 2.5 was real shit.
I was going to say that sometimes this filmmaking game, it's a young man's game, sorry, young person's game. But
yes,
so I was just looked it up. I'm like, oh, William Greaves is 42 when he did this.
Well, you couldn't tell by the mesh shirt he was wearing.
Nah, I guess you're right.
That screams early 40s.
Yeah.
And
well, it's hot. It was hot outside. Look at the sweat on his brow.
I know years and years ago when you were in your 40s, you were wearing all sorts of stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Trying to
capture
capture the glory days.
Yeah. Jarrett was wearing like crop tops and like Austin Powers "Oh Behave" pants. It was written on the ass.
Yeah.
And he was really going for it. I thought it worked. I didn't think you needed to like change your style anymore. I thought you had something going. Be you, girl.
So, I'll throw out there the concept of symbiotaxiplasm originated from Arthur F. Bentley in his book Inquiry into Inquiries, Essays in Social Theory, which Greaves described as, quote, those events that transpire in the course of anyone's life that have an impact on the consciousness and the psyche of the average human being, and how that human being also controls or affects changes or has an impact on the environment. By inserting psycho into the term, Greaves emphasized the mental state affected by those events.
Okay. That if someone was talking to me seriously and was trying to explain that to me, I don't know how I would respond other than just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how to take that. You know what I mean? Like I know that's entirely what he was intending, but what do you want me to do with that? You know? Do you know what the Munsters is trying to do with their movie, Jared?
Well, its overarching theme, sexuality.
Well, yeah, sexuality and the monster inside, and acceptance. You know what I mean?
Shit. I thought it was a kids movie.
No, dude, it's all about like raw sexuality and like the implications of when that dialogue starts. It changes the landscape of things, and you taxi to a different kind of plasm. Like we all know about ectoplasm.
Do you know about?
But have you ever heard about cinemaplasm?
Well, have you heard about plasma?
I've heard about plasma. That's on Netflix for you now, buddy.
Okay.
You can get into it.
I hear ya.
Recommend it.
Okay.
Or don't. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Yeah, so I don't know. Interesting character study. The human character, Jerry.
The human character.
The human plasma. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this thing. I said how I feel, but I think this was. I don't see a middle ground for a lot of people. I see people just absolutely being like, oh man, it just says it all about filmmaking, and you go, okay. And then I feel like there's people who would just be like, nothing happened. There's nothing happening. Weren't even any Ninja Turtles or Munsters in this thing for an hour. You go, yeah, there wasn't.
No, Munsters.
Munsters. The homeless guy's interesting.
I'm trying to open up my document so I can read who hates this film.
I'll tell you who hates this film. Chad Feuerstadt.
Oh, I got it. Feuerstadt. He's got a lot of words to say about it. I was trying to find, actually what I was trying to find, and I think that been part of our culprit about our dip there, was Oliver Granger. He had pointed out a real chud review for this. That was like 4.5 stars, and a description of it was that one half of it was like written. It was like concrete poetry though. So they wrote it in paragraphs, but then it was like flipped and it was like split in half and mirrored. And you got to go. What are you doing? What are you doing here, bud?
So it's like poetry. Did it rhyme?
No.
Can that guy do anything right?
Chad.
Oh yeah.
Feuerstadt. This is one of the biggest wastes of time I've ever had. Recommended. See, I'm not recommending it, folks.
Yeah.
And one of the most worthless films I've ever seen receive a wide release. Come on, wide release. Especially one that spanned decades. Criterion. Really? Watching this movie is like watching an expansive behind-the-scenes special for a movie that doesn't actually exist. Behind-the-scenes features are rarely that interesting unless it's one of your favorite movies. So imagine how boring one would be for a low-budget movie that consists purely of two people having conversations at a park. I found absolutely nothing of value through viewing this. At first, I felt like it at least maybe a worthwhile time warp into 1968 when it was shot, but that whole idea quickly loses its charm when the vapidity of the content itself becomes apparent. There is nothing to take from any of these conversations or people. This may be what I consider the greatest failure of an experiment in the format of a film ever made.
I mean, is that not justification for the experiment in general?
No.
You know what I mean, Jarrett?
No, it's not. That's not what Chad says.
I hate when people are like, come on, Criterion. Criterion's not good. Get out of here.
Yeah.
All these people with this false idol. Criterion's this golden calf, and they're just like, oh, it's so good. It's like, no, it's not. Half these movies suck ass. Which brings me to Chad Fiersten's Bandcamp.
And I quote, half these movies suck ass.
It's true, though. Do you not agree?
My life would be probably improved having not seen half of these movies.
Yes. Yeah. So this person has a link to a Bandcamp, and the very first thing that pops up, which I'm assuming is a song, is called Ass Life. So that's good.
That's good.
I mean, what else is there to say? This person's a fan of Possession, Altered States, The Tenant, The Cook, The Thief, The Wife, and The Lover. So it's kind of like this person maybe would have liked this movie, but
no.
A lot of these movies suck ass. So what are you going to do? They tagged it as boring. So that's good.
It's been a while since you busted that out.
Yeah.
Siobhan Hansen, half a star. If you hate women and gay people, you might like this movie. If you enjoy listening to people interrupt and talk over one another while rubbing their own dicks over how genius they are, you might like this movie. RJ is all those things.
I am in more than one way.
Yeah.
I believe this person's name is pronounced Siobhan.
Oh.
And the only reason I know that, Jared, is because of Succession. Because there's a character named Siobhan, and it's spelled like this. And isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy, Jared?
I learned something today.
Yes. This person 5-starred The Babadook, 12 Monkeys, Jennifer's Body, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. You know, all those the kinds of things. Let's see what other half-star films there are. Retro Puppet Master. All right. That's a film I gave a half a star to as well, so interesting. Maybe they're honest. I mean, they 1-starred Bubble Boy. I feel like Bubble Boy can't be that bad. They 1-starred Night Beast, Jarrett.
Oh my god.
Don't they know about Night Beast?
They have no idea what they're talking about.
Don't they know?
They have no idea what they're talking about.
Siobhan. Come on. Anyways,
one more here. Let's go with Piccolo Sam Rudolph.
Oh, of course.
1 star. They say F got way too many times for me to be even remotely comfortable while watching this. There's a few.
Okay, let me tell you about Piccolo Sam. Okay. Bio. Call me Sam. That's why it's in quotes.
We've talked about this person before.
Oh, have we really?
I think so.
Man, this is a lengthy bio.
I think you did it.
I find that weird, though, the Call Me Sam. Yeah, we've talked about Moulin Rouge, Lady for the Day, The Lure. Yeah. They just gave Elvis 3.5 stars.
Huh?
Do you think they like that he's white scene? Do you think they like that? I bet they liked it. They have starred Norbit. Norbit's a good movie. Norbit's better than half of the Criterion films. You know? So that's good.
That's that.
So that's that. Did you get any half stars for Take Two? and a half.
Oh, I could look up who loves it.
Or who loves it, perhaps. Yeah.
Let's take a look here. Who's here for it?
I'm here for this. I'm here for it.
Oh,
I did this.
let's find out. Let's see here. Highest first. My God. There's like not that many reviews.
No, there's only like three or four 5-star reviews.
Yeah, only a 1,000 odd people have bothered blogging it. Reviews.
That's fine.
Beep, boop, 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 boop. And I guess if you were watching it, maybe you'll be more sympathetic. Okay, we got Egg-U-Musak. I'm waiting until you say that's actually pronounced Bill.
It's actually pronounced
Bill.
Siobhan.
It's pronounced Bill. Every letter in the entire word is silent.
Okay, wait. Is this on who loves or who hates?
Who hates?
Yeah. No, that's definitely Bill.
Okay, so Bill.
You totally pronounced that wrong, dude.
Yeah. Why take something so amazing and make it horrible? Makes you terrified of old age.
So, it gives music, bio, philosopher, unionist, occasional judge of form and content. The revolution will not be televised, but but here's to hoping that film can be prefigurative.
Oh. RJ.
These people.
We didn't even talk about Praxis once, man.
Praxis? Wasn't he a Green Lantern villain?
He's like a Yellow Lantern, I think.
Praxis. He's a yellow jar.
Yeah, he's full of anger.
Yeah,
that's Red Lantern's fear.
Yeah, it's a yellow jar full of fear and anger.
Remember like how Jordan's fear was a failing?
I mean, that's so weak. It's so pathetic. Fail all the time. Who gives a shit?
Was that weak sauce?
It's weak sauce. It's not even remotely batshit, Jarrett. But I'm here for it regardless.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about DNM 1.5 stars? So disappointing. The first 30 minutes are captivating, truly funny, and 1968 incarnate. Then it all falls to shit, and apparently no one can tell. But the beginning is purseless.
Wow.
Purseless. That's good.
So this person is offer of the 100 best films to rent that you've never heard of, and A Girl and a Gun, the complete guide to film noir, Jarrett. So I'm going to look up the 100 best films to rent that you've never heard of. Let's see if we've heard of any of these films, Jarrett. Let's see. What are some films on here? Have you heard of Jaws, Jarrett? I'm just kidding. That's not on here.
Oh, I'm looking up Michael McNeely. Appreciated that acting was taken seriously, as well as the Q&A portion. Director need not be God.
I mean, yeah, all right. That Amazon page had no looks at what was in there. Michael McNeely's a film critic.
Oh,
Jarrett.
God damn.
For AMI Audio and other publications. Also
Shit.
a programmer of some film festivals.
Some.
A programmer of some.
Not all of them.
Yeah, this guy looks like someone who's been writing Batman for a while.
Yeah.
Is a way to put that.
Yeah.
Like he genuinely, he does look like a JT4, kind of.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This guy gave Lost Highway a 0.5 star. That's pretty neat.
Neat.
Pretty neat. Yeah. Like what else did they get? I don't know. This ratings and stuff. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
What you gonna do? Any final thoughts on Symbio?
I mean, I think those film bros who are really into it, I think they gotta relax. Like Steven Soderbergh, I think he's got to cool it a little bit.
Hey, it's a generational thing too, I think.
Is that apply to sepia tone as well?
Yeah.
That's a generational thing?
Yeah, sepia tone.
Sepia tone. That's perfect pronunciation. You ever heard of Siobhan?
Mm-hmm. I do now.
You do now. Yeah. So, anyways, that's cool. Movies.
Move cinema.
Movies.
Break down those walls.
Yeah.
After the break.
Mm-hmm.
Tits.
Oh.
Didn't see it coming.
What kind?
Bouncing.
Oh, shit.
Over there. Point the podcast at it.
Who?
She's on a horse.
Yeah, she was on a horse, actually.
No. But I'm not a pervert.
Well.
It's like, well, people say that. They have to. There's probably a reason.
I mean, I don't think anyone would say you're not.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Fair is fair.
Yeah.
When you're right, you're right.
Mm-hmm.